James, you look like you live in a nice old English house there. Oh, you're muted.
James.
This particular part of the house was built in the 1500s.
Yeah, I figured.
So yes, very old.
Yeah.
1500s.
The
Wow.
modern extension on the front was built in the 1700s.
And that's about when Australia was born, around about the late 1700s.
That's right.
It's hard to get our mind around that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We think an old house is one that was built in 1980.
Yeah. I know.
Declan.
Hey. God, sorry guys, I'm on my phone, I'm away, and I thought my mic was muted and it wasn't. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you're fine. A clue for you,
Good.
Declan, if you turn your phone sideways, you'll get you'll get a bigger picture of you, and you'll get more facility as well.
Is that?
Oh, that's better.
Oh, you're down with the kids, Vince. I didn't know that. Thank you.
Yeah, for half an hour at least.
Trying to figure out the controls, right?
If you swipe right and left on the phone, you'll get various different views and so on as well. How are you, Helen?
Yeah, I'm all right, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just trying to settle down after yesterday, so.
Yesterday, what's your memory of yesterday's experience?
I don't really know. I know my husband were really concerned, and he come belting into the room, thought I was being murdered. So he was quite shaken by it, and I said, "Well, yeah, I were and all." So he kept saying, "Talk about it," but I had nothing to say really. So I don't know. Just wait and see what life brings up. And
were you able to talk about it enough with him to put his mind at rest that everything was okay, what you were going through?
yeah, he doesn't understand any of it, but he's amazing, really. He's sort of followed me through. I mean, we were married 40 odd years ago. I was reading stuff then, Krishnamurti and stuff and all of that. So he's used to all the, and I've been on various retreats where I went on a Muji retreat and was absolutely petrified. So he's he's had a lot to cope with, actually, but he don't get any of it, but he just allows me my, So, but sometimes he'll say, when I'm sort of really in mind and one thing, he'll say, "Well, you've done all this for all these years, and you're still unhappy, or you're still,
I've got exactly the same situation, with my wife. She's been seeing it happening for me for 56 years, and she says, "Well, you haven't changed."
Yeah. John says the same. Well, nothing's changed. You don't seem any happier. So.
And I can tell her, look, the change is internal. It's just not so obvious, but she still doesn't get it. But yeah, that's okay. Yeah, we still love him anyway, eh? Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, certainly for the patients, and you know, he's allowed it almost. You know, he's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
chucked me out. So
Mm,
yeah. Mm.
good one. Yeah. Oh, Jahida. Very good to see you.
Jahida.
Haven't seen you
Hi.
in a long time. Yeah,
I know. Good to see you. I missed you.
yeah. Oh, I saw bits and pieces of you on Facebook from time to time, but that was it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had a birthday recently. That was good.
I had a birthday. Yep. That was good. Yep. I went to I forced my husband to take me to a show. He didn't even know who the artists were, but he just had a good time watching me have fun.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it
Good
was
one.
lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love the silence, but if somebody doesn't come up with something soon, I'm going to start picking on people.
I'll throw something in, Vince, and then see if people bite.
Okay. Good one.
I never realized that I needed somebody else to give me permission that would allow me to give myself permission. And the example is this. You said at one point, you know, you changed your view from 98% of thoughts are rubbish to 100% of thoughts are rubbish. And you saying that gave me permission to look at my thoughts, all of them. Now, because before I was clinging on to stuff saying, there's got to be some of these thoughts that are right, you know, or there's got to be some of these thoughts that are good, or, you know, whatever label I wanted to put on them. And it was you saying that I realized gave me permission to then actually see what was going on in my head. I don't know if that resonates with anybody else, but you know, it made me realize that it was just me holding me back, not anybody else.
Yeah, that was, you know, in retrospect, I could say that was my intention to with that kind of statement. But it's also a stupid thing to say, because it's much more nuanced than that. You know, that's as about as gross as you can get, isn't it? Really. But sometimes I feel the need to shock people is a good thing, you know, because we do, by nature, we're taught right from kindergarten on that our thoughts are good. You know, we taught that we put mind up on a pedestal, when in fact it's what leads us astray for most of our life. Yeah.
So for anybody out there who's waiting for permission, you now have my full permission to pass through the gate.
It's kind of on that subject, but seems to have been bubbling around for a few days for me. I've heard a few times listening to Vanilla that thoughts are not personal. And I can kind of see that, but it feels like some kind of a block, because I think my thoughts feel very personal. Like, you know, if you say there's just seeing or just hearing and just sensation, kind of get that quite, not easily, but, you know, it makes sense. And sort of like me and somebody else looking at a tree, we're probably seeing the same thing, but I don't know because I'm not in their head. But I can get the idea that thought isn't personal. And I don't know if it's just words, but the idea that thought, you know, my thoughts aren't personal just seems like that's the whole thing. It's the thoughts that make up this compelling story of Declan, you know, what Declan thinks about everything and all Declan's secrets and all of that. But I was just wondering if anyone could shed some light on that or help me get over whatever block I've created there.
My question to you, Declan, would be, when you have these personal thoughts, where do they come from?
No idea.
There you go.
It might be helpful if you can see that you respond to your thoughts in exactly the same way, in principle, that you respond to any of your senses being stimulated. Right? Because, well, and that's what it is. You respond to your thoughts, right? Or put it another way, a more accurate way, you respond to the content of your thoughts, just as you respond to being touched or hearing or smelling or any of your other senses. So in that way, if you see that your thoughts are actually another sense organ, another sense input that you respond to, then it puts thoughts in a more objective perspective. So the fact that you don't know where they come from, and you've already considered that, you were very quick in your response to that one, because you've already seen that you don't know where they come from. So they're not coming from a self. They are actually what makes up the self. The self is the responses you have to the stories about Declan. And you've got a million of them. There's a whole fucking book there that you've got. Chapters about, you know, your likes and your dislikes and your history and all of this. Every single story you've got about Declan that you would call memory, that you would call how you think Declan is about everything, you know, Declan's ideas. So that's a bit of a circular one. So you've got stories about Declan and you respond to those stories, and that's what makes up what you would call the self. It's purely a conceptual thing. It's nothing actual. I guess you realize that already, eh?
Yeah, I think so, Vince. Thank you, mate. Thank you. That's helpful. I think I'm kind of getting there with that. You know, I'm sure I am, but yeah, for some reason I think it's just if sometimes I get very analytical and I get stuck on words. I think it's just if I think thought isn't personal, but it just seems I can't move away from thoughts. The things that make up this story of me are personal because they make up this wacky individual little story.
There's no need to get away from it. There's, you know,
No,
it is what it is, what it is, and that's been there for a long time, and well and truly conditioned in, isn't it? So it's going to
Yeah,
continue.
yeah.
Even when you wake up, it's going to continue, but you'll
Mm,
respond differently to it. Do
yeah.
you get that? You're going to respond
Yes.
one way if you believe
Yeah.
it. You're going to respond another way if you see it as just another sense input.
Yeah. 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 That's useful. Thank you. Yeah. On a lighter note, in my seeking quest, I asked just so you know, I asked Alexa on Tuesday night who I was while I was thinking about it, and mine's female voice.
Yeah.
She said you are Declan. This is Declan's account. So then I just said, well, who is Declan? And she told me that I was an England football player called Declan Rice. So I thought, okay, I'll go with that.
She was just reading out of chapter 2, wasn't she?
She really was.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
it's obvious.
Thanks, guys.
It's obvious that you're not the label Declan.
Yeah, no, it's quite funny to hear this machine say, "You are Declan. This is Declan's account." I'm just like, yes, but who is Declan?
You know, the other way to look at it, or one way to look at it, which is an old way, but it is kind of cool, is like if you think when you're dreaming, right? Your experience of dreaming is that there's something happening and that it's real, and that you're a participant in the dream, right?
Mm.
I mean, you can relate to that, having a dream where you think it's
Yes,
right. You really,
yeah, and it's really nice, JP, because I
yeah,
had
you
quite a
have
vivid
no,
dream last night, and I was,
there's no conception of anything else than the reality of your dream.
yeah,
And then you wake up and you realize, no, that wasn't me after all. So
yeah,
it's like, in a sense, you can look at your experience, you know, of relating to your thoughts as being in a dream state, because that's really what it is.
mm,
They're creating, you know, a reality for you that you're accepting as yourself.
yes, yeah,
But the thoughts that you're having right now are no more real than the thoughts you have in the dream. It's the same process of creating a world.
yeah. So true, so true.
Declan is when you have a look at this thought construct, for want of a better word, the thing that seems to, well, the thing that makes it personal is there's a little thought in there that we never actually are conscious of until we see it, and it's the thought I. Everything is built, the thought structure is built around that one thought, I, in terms of this illusion. So right now, as you're lying with your head against the bed head there, how would you describe it?
Describe the I.
Yeah, or my head is against the bed. My arm is above my head.
Yes, yeah. It's all me, my
Exactly.
I. And
So
I don't even question that when I'm thinking. It's just it's me thinking. It's this I that is constructed, but God
there it
knows
is.
what
There
it
it
is.
is.
Yeah.
So one little exercise can be, as you're going through your daily activities, just be conscious of including that I automatically, and then drop it. So instead of saying my head is against the bed, just head is against the bed, or arm is above that. Sometimes that can just illuminate the fact that this thought, I thought, is implanted in there so transparently or surreptitiously. Is that a word?
Yeah,
and
I
that's,
think so. I think so.
yeah, I think so. That's right. We thinking so.
Yes. Well,
But that can be sometimes just a little light that illuminates how we're putting our thoughts together, which has us feel that they're personal. But they're not personal in the sense that they're your thoughts. They're personal in the sense that we attach me to them. The thought me, the thought I.
oh, that's really. Can I quiz you a bit there, Aaron? Because I think this is another part I'm getting myself in a pickle with. Thank you. When you said they're not your thoughts, yeah, I think that's it. I think they are my thoughts. But when you say they're not your thoughts, sorry, you're saying they're just thoughts.
Right.
Something like that. I know language gets really tricky around this stuff sometimes, but
It does.
I think yeah, right. They're
Who
not
was
my
it?
thoughts. They're just thoughts.
Who was it asked you
Yeah.
earlier? Was it you, James? Said, "Where do your thoughts come from?" And you say, "I don't know."
Yeah.
They arise, and then we add this little thought called I and me, mine. It's all about me. And it's the thought embedded in those thoughts that creates this sense of an illusory me. It's who I think I am, not who I truly am.
Yeah.
And this is worth considering. It's built into language. Language is so powerful. It is right. You've recently come across Chat GDP, and it's based on language. And suddenly we realize how powerful language is with that. And you can see how Chat GDP can almost emulate a person just using language, right? So our language has evolved from common usage, and every time you open your mouth and say something, or don't even open your mouth, every time you think something, you use language in that thinking form, guess what? You're perpetuating the conditioning. So part of this thing called a self is habit. It's just habitual. We don't even, it comes automatically. We don't think about it. It just happens. And it's partly because it's built into our language, and we're never going to escape that. But what we can do when we say, I'm using words like we, what we can do, what I can do, there you go, what my language expresses, right, is that they're just words, but you're actually still believing, some of the time anyway, that those words have an existence in place in the world, when they're just our way of communicating. But that habit thing is really, really important. So what Alan is suggesting you do, and it's an exercise we use at LU a little bit, it's really worth doing, is to sit down with a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle of it, and just look around and say, write down little phrases like, oh, I see my hand on one side of the page, and then on the other side, express that without using the personal pronouns, right? And so you'll say, seeing hand, right? And if you do that, just casually, and fill the page on one side with the personal pronouns, and then the other side without them, and then read them back to yourself. Read them, and then you go, I see my hand, and then you go, seeing hand. And when I do it just then, there's a different feeling about the one without the personal pronouns. It's much more accurate. Right? The first one is obviously a story. I see my hand. The second one is a description of experience. Can you see? There's a difference. It's a brilliant exercise. You know, you get a really strong feeling for how embedded the language is in perpetuating the story that there is a me that's there, that exists.
If I
Yeah.
could just
Go ahead, Paul.
yeah, I've actually, like I said last week, I've actually gone back to my original LU exercises, and I've actually been doing these exercises this week, exactly that. And I agree totally with what's been said, that when you actually just leave the eye, you can actually do the exercise the other way as well, Vince, as well. I was going for what the guide actually showed me for LU, and he actually was asking me, well, what does the eye actually add if you actually say I'm seeing something or I'm hearing something? So you can do it both ways, where what I tend to do now, and I've actually just been doing it today, I just note at something to keep me in the present moment. So as I'm going down on the 5 senses, I'll just go see, hear, touch, whatever, rather, and you know, so I drop the eye. But what the exercise that the guide actually got me to do was, first of all, like you said on one side of the paper, I am touching something, and then on the other side just say touch, and just ask yourself, well, what did the eye actually add to that experience? And when you actually look at it, it adds nothing. It adds nothing by adding that eye to that experience. So it was a good exercise. And just one other thing on this subject, which is a great subject because it's exactly what I've been working on. I was on a call a couple of weeks ago with Luciano and Lubo about thoughts. And it's just a one-liner. Sometimes in this is why I furiously write down sometimes. So I apologise if you see me writing, because things jump out at me sometimes in these meetings. And it was just one line that Luciano actually said on the meeting, and she just said, when you've got thoughts, they've got no authority. Ask, who's the authority behind this thought? And when I've actually, it's a real good trigger to say, when you're in this I thought, like Alan says, and this is what it's been really helping me over the last couple of weeks, that when you go into this story, like we all do, you will get caught up in this story, and then you realize you've been identified. I quickly now ask myself, well, who's the authority behind that thought? And straight away, it seems to drop the story and you're straight into the analysis where you're looking for the north self. And obviously you can't find it because it's not there. So a couple of pointers there, Declan, that's been working for me. Yeah.
Thank you, mate.
So I'm just pondering here the way that we condition little children. Vince, you were saying, you know, when you say I move my hand, as against hand moving. When you think of little children, and you know they're talking about me, mine. They're reinforcing that personal pronoun by actually touching their body sometimes or grabbing a toy. And if we saw someone saying to a little child, you don't need to say I am moving, hand moving. It's sort of, everyone would look at you as though you're strange. And there's the conditioning right there that we all participate in early in life, where that habitual sense of I and me is embedded so deeply.
Especially at the age of 2.
At the age of 2. And yeah, that's natural. That's all natural that happens. But now as a 43-year-old, when I thinking about like my hand or whatever, today I went to church and it's Easter here. And my favorite parts of church are when it's really quiet and it's silent. It's like the choir sings and then it's quiet and there's that stillness. And I love that there's no rush to get to the next thing. That's my favorite part about church, is that this where they have those moments of stillness and everyone can just be quiet and no one's waiting for anything to happen. But related to the touching thing, when I sit and close my eyes, even the label of like when I think about, am I this body? It's like even describing what is it like when I close my eyes and I try to sense what's the sensation of that touch, the sensation of touch, the hand. Like even the word hand is also the label too. Do you know what I mean? Like, because then that is the assumption with the language, what Vince was saying, like there's the assumption that there's that sensation, whatever the hell that sensation is, I'm kind of having a picture in my mind, which is an image of the hand belonging to me as part of this body, right? So even if I see through that there is no me, there still seems to be a perspective of there's something here, sees from this perspective and is looking out and is even with my eyes closed can sense hand on the table. Okay, and then I think to myself, oh, hand, is that a hand? Is that my hand? And where is it now with my eyes closed? Do you know what I mean? Like questioning these things even deeper with the labels of not just me, but I don't know, just even hand, you know?
Yeah, I do exactly the same thing as well, and almost like that when you're trying to sense a body, you can't really sense it. You can't really when you close your eyes.
When you close your eyes.
I mean, a label is just a way. It's just a sort of way to get you down there. But like everything, you should really drop everything, shouldn't you, and go right back to the. I mean, a label itself doesn't really explain the sensation. I think it's just a little refinement. But that label, in my view, should get dropped even further, like you were saying.
Right. Yes, because even the thought of distance too. Like, here's this body at this sitting here in this chair, looking at the wall over there, and that wall is at a distance from this here. So even though I saw through the eye, there still seems to be that this is here, but that's also even, I'm realizing that even that the word distance is also a made up thing that we learned when we were little, you know, like, is that at a distance? Like, that's the question, right? Because it's always just questioning, right? What is distance? Well, you know, without saying that wall is at a distance, what is there? What's here, you know?
It's funny you said that, because I was going to bring up a question on the call, because part of my original exercises was going through the senses, and the guide actually said to me, and I am struggling with actually the seeing bit, understanding the seeing bit, that we only see colors.
Right, the vision is hard. I think it's the hardest, the vision.
Yeah, we only see.
We also
colors.
assume that it's this eyes, and behind us we can't see, right?
Maybe if your experienced people on the call could sort of like jump in. We only see colors, but like you said, this distance thing, I can, as I'm looking around, it does feel like I'm here and something's over there, even though,
But that's a story too. That could also be a story, right? That's a story.
You guys are just jumping ahead.
We get down with the feathers then.
Yeah, these people who are still kind of believing in a self, you know, that's just gobbledygook to them. But it's true. I mean, you know, but firstly, if the beginning, what's really important for the people who have not yet shifted from believing that a self is running the show to recognizing that that's not the way things actually work, until they get through that part, recognizing that hand, that's a label, that's a concept, that's an idea. That hand, the fact that that's a hand is just an idea. If you look at it, and so here we have to be really clear. Here we're talking. There's the what we would call the absolute. There's the way things actually are, and we can't know that. That's way too complex, and it's beyond the human mind to comprehend the way things actually are. You know, we don't see molecules and we don't see atoms, and we can't experience those things as individual things and so on. So that whole scientific viewpoint is something that we just got to put into a big mystery bag at this stage. And so what we're all about with this waking up stuff is always from a relative perspective, from the perspective of whatever we are. You know, that absolute that we don't know what we are, but what we have got, what we do know, kind of, is our experience. And so everything that we actually are is just our experience. That's the only thing that is actual. You don't even know that you've got a back of your head. You can say, oh, well, I can touch it. Then I know I've got a back of my head. No, all I know is that I've got a sensation. And I'm going to describe it as the back of my head. Well, that's a story, that description. It's like that hand. I'm only going to describe it as a hand, but that's just a story. What it actually is an experience. There are sensations there. There are sensations that come in through my eyes. And I'm adding those sensations up and overlaying them with a story that's a hand. But that's just still one step too far at this stage. If we can appreciate, well, maybe it's not one step too far, because if we can appreciate that that's a reality, we can also appreciate that the self is the same thing. It's just a story. And once we can appreciate that the self is just a story, we start to recognize what is actual, which is our experience. But the moment we start to describe our experience, guess what? We get back into storyland. We have to tell stories about it when we describe it.
I have a question.
Yes.
When does a belief drops? When it's seen that it's false, or when the energy behind it released?
I didn't quite get the last part, Ramez. Could you say that again?
When a belief drops, when it's seen that it's false, or when the energy behind the belief release?
You're asking when does that happen?
That was a question, Ramez.
Are you asking Ramiz, when does it happen? When does the belief fall? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, yes.
When do the beliefs fall, Vince? When do they fall?
Yeah.
Just notice they're not there anymore.
The question that I heard Ramiz ask was, when you see a belief, that it's a belief and it's false, does the energy of that belief go away? Was that the question, Ramiz?
It seemed that to me the belief is partially conceptual and partially sensational, and they create this Velcro effect. So I can investigate the belief conceptually and it appears to be false. There is no evidence for it, but the body somehow believes it still. There's energy behind it. So does the belief only drops when the energy behind it released? And it doesn't matter if it's true or false in the conceptual perception.
The experience here, Ramiz, would be that when you truly see that a belief is false, that the energy behind it falls away in the body. If the energy is still there, it might be accepted at some level that it's false, but clearly seeing that it's false is all that's needed for it to fall away.
I've had a perpetual question that goes, when a belief is no longer a belief, is it always replaced by another belief? And it seems to me that it is, even if the new belief is that I no longer believe that old belief.
Because you believe it doesn't exist anymore. Because you believe you don't believe it anymore.
Yeah. That would be a minimum of a new belief, but it may be something else as well.
But doesn't it all end up being, I don't know, in the end?
Yes.
There is no, in the end, it's not necessarily a belief replaces another one, because when everything is seen through, then you don't believe anything because you don't know anything.
Is that a belief that I don't know anything?
No, it's like an intuition thing. It's like it's something that's experienced as opposed to thought about. It's not like my thoughts believe this because I have all the evidence. It's just something like
But
that,
what
you know.
Ramiz was talking about, what Ramiz was mentioning, alluding to there, was almost that his body believes something. His head says it's not right, but his body says it is right.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and what's that? What does that look like? What does that look like when your body is believing it? What does that look like, Ramiz? What does that look like? Or what does it feel like when your body is believing it, but your mind's not? What do you mean by that?
Well, the belief has got stuck in the body. The belief has caused up.
So what's the experience of that though?
Yeah.
Not.
What's it like? What's it like when my mind doesn't believe it, but my body does?
It's a block. It's a block in the body. It's a
So
belief.
It feels like a block.
Yeah. So how do you know that your body still believes it? That might be a better way to come at it.
Because you feel uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable. There's a feeling of discomfort about.
There's a feeling of discomfort, and you react. It makes you react.
So Ramiz, is your experience that you feel uncomfortable when you challenge that belief that the body has?
I don't know what to trust.
Can I just say that when you say that, I don't know what to trust. I remember like when I first started coming on these calls and like I was having an issue with like my little boy, he was using the computer a lot, and I was, you know, trying to just know that like, you know, I don't want to believe that the computer is bad for him. I want to drop that belief. Like, I want to believe that it's going to be okay, you know? And then someone on the call said, like, the problem isn't that you believe what you believe or what you don't believe. The problem is that you think there's a me to believe it. So it doesn't matter what the beliefs are. The basis of it all is that you still feel like someone that doesn't know what to trust. There's still someone that needs to trust something. You know?
That was brilliant, Jahida. That I love that. Thank you. It's always a.
And so it's not questioning like what you're believing or how to let go of beliefs, and not, you know, how to, you know, trust in the universe or believe that thoughts are all made up. It's always just like in the what people, how I was guided in the calls in the beginning was like, where is the person that feels like they need to trust something? Like, what's the sensation like in your body that's saying, I don't know what to trust? Like that feeling that Yvonne was just talking about, that block. What is that block? Where is that block? And to stay with what you are assuming that needs to trust or needs to let go of beliefs. Where is it? What is that? What does that feel like? And to stay with that first before you go into the conceptualization of how do I do this or what should I do? It's always like, oh, I feel uncomfortable. What is that? Oh, it's in my stomach. I feel it in my stomach. I feel it in my chest. I feel it, I feel it, I feel it, I feel it. And then it's just, oh, it's gone. Until the next time where it's, fuck, I don't know what to do. I'm doing this wrong. I don't know what to trust. How do I let go of this belief? Oh, I feel it, I feel it, I feel it. Where is it? And like, keep like feeling the sensations instead of going into like an explanation or a thought. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Can I say something? It really reminds me of the time when I quit drinking and taking drugs, because I didn't really know how my life would work without drinking alcohol. I thought like I would never have fun again. I would never dance again. I would never be relaxed with other people anymore. And I think I didn't even trust in anything because I could not know what was going to happen. And then somehow with the time, I just forgot about this question. I mean, because I would say like, my social life is over without alcohol or something like that. I'm never going to have fun again. This is a belief. But then instead of the question regarding fun and those things, suddenly other things came into my life, and which I would not have expected. And now I'm actually having fun. I'm enjoying life, but from a total different perspective. So yeah, and I tried to quit with my addictions by willpower several times, and it never worked because yeah, conceptualizing doesn't really work. But I couldn't even say how it all happened, but yeah, to have the craving and like to sit with it and see how it passes is was like an experience that is serving me a lot at the moment, because I think it was just like also a gate to cross, just to be able to be confronted to feelings or bodily sensations that are maybe a bit difficult to handle. But yeah, I would say that it really set the foundation for all the other things to get to know. I don't really know if this
Oh, it's the same. It's the same. We're addicted to the I. We're addicted to going into the thoughts to avoid this. We don't want to give that up. How will we live without using our mind to distance ourselves from this painful, if it's painful right now? How will we live without the explanation of it's going to be okay, or oh, I can figure it out and I can, you know, do this to make it better, you know? So it isn't, it's the same addiction to going into the conceptual realm to avoid that, this unknown, this discomfort of like, this is all just happening. Like, how can that be? I need to be able to control it. That's too scary.
Do you think that looking for a belief is harder than actually looking for the no self in a way? Because if you actually just do the exercises from LU to say, you know, is anyone moving, you know, the arm flipping exercise, for example, you know, who's controlling that? I find that, and I virtually spend all day, most of my days, going through the basic exercises of, is there yourself hearing, is there yourself touching, etc., etc. And if you ask me now about, do I believe there's no self, I would say, no, I'm convinced there's no self, because I've been looking that long, you can never find one. However, I've tried to look for a belief about that, and I can't find a belief. But and underneath, I don't know. I think there's a question in there somewhere. I'm just thinking that it's more difficult to look for an unconscious belief about something than actually doing one of these exercises where you can, within seconds, it's obvious that there's no self running the show.
I want to let Vince talk. I just want to say one thing that comes to mind when you say that. Well, when you're looking for an unconscious belief, it's like a dog chasing its tail then, right? Because now you're using your mind again to come back and look. I mean, the thoughts are not going to help you find or not find something. It's only the sitting of in the sitting of this without any of that, without anything. And just that, maybe that's why I like church so much, that part of the silence where it's just, and then here's a thought, oh, there's a thought, and then back to this. Oh, and there's a thought that wants to say something about this, and back to this. And that's what meditation kind of helps you do, I guess, in a way. I don't know, but go ahead. I'll stop talking.
Don't stop. You're doing well. Yeah. Paul, I want to ask you. Sorry, go on.
I wanted to ask because I was thinking about, I was asking about one of my beliefs. Why do I believe it? And the answer that came was intuition. It's an intuition. And you said that intuition is different than belief. And I'm not sure. Is it? Or is it just another word for?
Intuition is a much lighter thing, isn't it? Its belief is somehow, I don't know, more concrete. Intuition
Yeah, I
is,
agree with that. It moves you. It doesn't come here to tell you the answer. It just you just go.
it does not hear it, yeah.
All we can say
Yeah,
is
but
it
I
has a
think
different flavour.
Sorry, what did you say?
Saying intuition has a different flavour to it. It's, yeah.
Oh,
It's something, it's very, we can't really examine it
oh.
because so much of it is out of our awareness, out of our consciousness, if you like. Yeah.
Well, it seems to me that behind my belief is an intuition that moves me towards this belief.
Sure.
I don't.
Yep.
Hmm.
Could well be. Yeah, we have feelings about things, and those feelings will either move us in one direction or another direction. And if they move us in one particular direction, it'll be towards that belief. And if we move in the other, it'll be away from it. So maybe, and I don't know, this is just another story, maybe when we drop a belief, it's partly because our feelings about it change. So intuition may be a big part of changing belief. I don't know. It's
But
possible.
a belief drop, when a belief drops, though, it's not something you say, I'm going to drop this belief.
Oh, that's
It's
right.
you
You can't do it. Yeah.
get to the feeling. I mean, you're just working through stuff, and then you realize that belief's not there anymore.
Yeah.
It's not around. And you're just lighter without that belief.
Hmm.
And I don't understand how intuition moves towards a belief, because intuition, it just disappears again. It comes and it's gone.
Hmm.
But belief is something you kind of carry, and it's a heavy thought that you've thought over and over and over again, like a family heirloom.
Well, what makes a particular thought a belief would be how you feel about it, wouldn't it?
Well, that you believe it.
Well, yeah. So yeah. So it's a good place to examine, you know, to look in your own experience and your own life, and
Yeah.
and have a look at what your beliefs are. Yeah. But so when Paul, when you keep doing the exercises to remind yourself that there's no self there, it's like the analogy I would use is you go to the fridge looking for something. You know, let's say you go to the fridge to look for a packet of Tim Tams, and you open the fridge and you check it out thoroughly, and they're not there. There's definitely not there. And you close the fridge and you go away. How many more times are you going to go back and examine the fridge to see if they're there when you know that they're not there? Are you going to keep doing it all day? Are you actually even going to go back a second time and look? Maybe you will go back a second time just to confirm that your thorough search the first time was accurate, and they're not there. But you're not going to go back a third time, are you? Or a fourth time or a fifth time. But when you see that there's no self there, why do you keep going back and looking to make sure there's no self there? It's because you don't believe your first experience. I mean, that may be an inaccurate description of what's happening for you, but it's just it's maybe helpful to others as well. Yeah.
Mm.
I think intuition is outside the conceptual field for the most part,
Yes.
because the conscious mind is a filtering machine. The subconscious mind takes in a whole lot more than the conscious mind. So if you're standing out in the bush and you may be talking to your friend, but subconsciously there's a lot more information coming in. If there's a twig or something moving in an abnormal fashion over there, you intuitively begin to move away. You don't necessarily recognize with the conscious mind there's a lion right there, but your body will just start intuitively doing something. It doesn't even have to involve the concept. And the recognition may come and you'll say, oh, there's a lion, but many people start moving away from danger before they even recognize it. So I think intuition is more a subconscious system, warning system, and
Yeah.
the conscious mind just kind of announces whatever eventually comes up. So it's I would say it's less conceptual than anything.
I remember once when my son was a baby and we were sat on a small child and we were sat on a train and he was sitting opposite me, and for some reason I just went over and I picked him up and put him on the seat with me, and seconds later a stone was thrown through the window by some boys and went exactly where he was sitting. That was intuition.
Yeah. It comes around a lot with little kids because they're always doing something that you innately recognize that there's something unsafe there. You may not know exactly what it is, but you know the kid has just in the wrong place, and you just reach over and grab them and stuff. So that's a very good example. Kids bring it out really well.
I mean,
Little
the
kids.
train was fast and there's children were on a bridge. They threw some stones. It came through the hole in the window. This was years ago when windows were open, and they came through the hole in the window and landed on the seat. And I just moved him, and I thought, my God, how did that happen? Had he been there, he would have been hit. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't have to repeat all that, but.
Well, I mean, that
yeah.
was almost bordering on the psychic there, because that was something that might have been out of your view, but I think it probably all ties in together somehow. But it's just the filtering mechanism of the conscious mind. It leaves things out that are important sometimes. It's a survival mechanism, but it has its downside.
Has a downside.
Suffering.
It has a.
It talks all the time. It says stupid shit, and people actually get distressed about what it says. That's the problem with something that talks to help the tribe, is it also talks all the time, and you can't shut it up and you react to it.
I don't always go for dictionary definitions, but the dictionary definition of intuition is quite good.
What is
An
it?
easy go-to. It says the ability to understand something instinctively without the need for conscious reasoning.
Yeah, I like that.
Another one is a thing that one knows or considers likely from instinctive feeling rather than a conscious reasoning. Same thing, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that. I'm just
Yeah.
looking for an easy route.
Isn't that what we're talking about? Yeah, conscious reasoning on overdrive. That's what the I is, right? Conscious reasoning on overdrive all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So in this case, the intuition is light, true, but when it comes back throughout my life, I guess this is where I can build a belief, and the belief is not necessarily true. It can be not. It can be like when if you go by some place and you feel uneasy every time, and you don't know the cause, you can make a belief that there are ghosts there or something, bad
Yeah.
energy or this.
Yeah.
And so this is the difference between intuition and belief. I don't know.
Mm. Yeah. Yes, I suppose I believe that I'm believing that intuition is lighter than belief. I suppose.
And it happens
Tricky.
it happens in all sorts of seemingly mundane ways. I mean, we've all perhaps had a situation, I'm thinking of a situation where you're talking to someone on the phone and you get this sense, I better let them go now. And the response will come back, well, how did you know I've got an appointment right now? But there was a sense just of, need to wrap this up.
Yeah.
It happens in all sorts of ways. Now, I don't know that you can call that a belief, but it's a movement. It's an arising of an impulse that has a lightness about it, and so often we ignore it and we say, "Oh, yeah, I should have taken notice of that," but we didn't.
Yeah.
Or on the other hand, I've taken notice of it, and that's interesting. Synchronicities.
It's very intuition is very reactive. Beliefs, I think, are formed over time just by repetition. You know, your preacher tells you over and over and over that this is this in religion, or your teacher tells you over and over. So beliefs are just kind of dug into the brain, more or less. It's more conceptual, I'd say. Intuition, like you say, you hear something in their voice, or you hear maybe the children screaming in the background for dinner. You hear something that you may not really notice, and it tells you, hey, it's time to hang the phone up. Yeah, it's very reactionary is the best way to put it, I would think.
Immediate, you mean?
Yeah, and it doesn't deal with past or future or anything like that. It's just like that.
Yeah, very immediate.
It's usually a feeling rather than a thought.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you been, Anne? We don't want you to
Yeah,
go to sleep there.
I've been all right actually, thank you. I don't know, maybe all that offloading last week shifted some energy. It's nice to be able to talk about in safe, what felt like a safe environment. And this week's been quite different. I feel like something shifted and there's a lightness back. My mind wants to tie it into change to spring and seasonal affective disorder, but it's irrelevant really. I just feel, I feel like that old presence is back really, presence or a certain amount of contentment without that angst, and able to focus more, which is really nice.
Good.
Yeah, just able to settle.
Sounds like a good place.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, it's
Hi,
really
Anne.
nice. Hi,
Hi. Do
who's
I
that?
remember you? It's Jahida. Do I
Yes,
remember you from Lisa's calls back in the day?
I recognised you from Lisa Lennon. Was it?
Yes.
No,
Yes.
Ken. I've been around a bit, yeah.
Oh, I remember you from those calls.
Yeah,
Hi.
it's lovely to see you. Yeah, really lovely. I like what you've said. Thank you. Nice to be here again.
Good. How about you, Sebastian? How are you traveling?
Yes, hi. Can I just add another thought to Rami's question before?
Yes. Yeah.
Somehow this whole question of beliefs is related for me with also with the question of trauma, because trauma is somehow also very deeply rooted belief. Just an example, we had a party 1 year ago with a friend of mine who had a quite traumatized childhood, and she was raped by her father, who was also an alcoholic. And it was not quite communicated that we are not allowed to drink alcohol in her presence, and she was quite chilled about this. But somehow this combination of neurons, or you can call it beliefs, thoughts, reactivated her reaction in her body. So she freaked out a little bit, got a panic attack, although she was in a very, very friendly, very warm place at my house, and she knows me well. She knows my friend. There was also her boyfriend with her. So the whole circumstances were just really, really very warm and friendly. And she saw me drinking wine and a friend of me drinking wine. I don't know if we are similar to her father, but I don't think it's necessary. We were just males drinking alcohol near to her. Not much, so none of us were drunk or behaving in any kind of aggressive way. But she got panic attacks and very, very strong contraction in the body and headaches, etc. So I think it's not a simple topic, because these things, Rami is right in a way in his question, because there is somehow an energy, or I don't know how to call this, but it's stored in the body, stored in the muscle memory somehow. So it's not a lot of teachers and a lot of podcasts and everybody communicates this whole shift of paradigm or perspective or focus, or call it whatever you want. The realizing, although it's not a realizing, but I don't have another word for it. So this whole shift that you see that there is nobody there, there is nothing, nobody, that these things, these traumas, etc., are not happening to anybody. Let's say it this way. But this is not an instant solution to everything. It's not an instant solution for these very, very, very deeply rooted beliefs or traumas or neuron combinations in your brain or in your body, because there were decades that you kept struggling with these things, and then 40, 50 years later or 30 years later, or whenever in your life, you are realizing this or see this, that, oh my God, there is nobody sitting there, there is sitting happening, or the whole thing what you were discussing at the beginning of this friendly gathering. This is all true, but it's not a solution. These things are stored somewhere, and for me it's a big question mark, and it's a big very interesting topic how to deal with this. And I was almost a year long in a psychodrama therapy group. I don't know if you know this this method. I am studying the family constellation. I am a facilitator of a men's circle, and all what I see is that the person, when the persona is still there, we are always handling these things from the perspective of the persona. And the therapist is also stuck in this narrative. We are verbalizing this, we are adoring these things, and we are always talking about this. I have had this childhood, that childhood. We are going to the past always on these therapy sessions and reliving those moments, reliving those experiences when the root of this belief started to grow. So if somebody was raped, then she or he will talk 20, 30, 40 years long about that very moment, which influenced her in or his life in the story. And for me, it's a very, maybe these are two topics now, I don't know. So let's see. But for me, it's a big question mark how to deal with this, and how to have mercy, how to be merciful with this, with the persona, and not to shout like Jim Newman style that this is all there is, and see through, and then everybody will be fine. But somehow this change of perspective, what also happened here, as I see it now, it's a gate opening to handle these issues. It's I think it's way better than sitting 20 years in therapy. It's like opening a door, because what happened here with this that everything can come in. There is no one left to filter it out. That there is also only the good things, the good thoughts, the good emotions can come in. Everything can come in, and when this is realized, and when this combination of the brain, or this change of the mindset happens, then it's a very good start point to deal also with trauma, to deal also with beliefs, to take the courage to sit with those very deeply rooted thoughts. Because unless you are doing this, you can talk your way out, and you are just bypassing years or maybe decades with therapy, with the psychodrama, with all these group and personal therapies. For me, this was a game changer in many other topics also, but to handle all these reactions of the body, all these very deeply rooted intuitive. We were also talking about intuition. So this is also intuitive. It's a reaction of the body that run. It says run. It says this is war. This is a fight now. So, for example, this is a personal story, but it's also very deeply rooted. When the first time I have a sexual intercourse with a woman, the first reaction of the body is this is war, this is fight. You have to prove yourself here. It's compression and not relaxation. And I don't know the cause of it, and I don't really care about the cause or the story anymore, because it doesn't solve anything. But for years, I wanted to go away, that this goes away. I didn't want to face it. What is this? How strange it is. And after a while, of course, it releases. But through this change of perspective, I learned to sit also with this. And I think it can be a very, very good method to handle trauma and to handle all these deeply rooted emotional and muscular reactions of the body. So there is some kind of energy, there is some kind of storage, some kind of that these things are stored, and you have to wait. You have to work your way through this, and there is no instant solution. Not even this realization of no self is solving this. So you have to be merciful with yourself and merciful with others, because these are very, very deep stuff. We are carrying loads of shit with us throughout our whole life. And I don't know what the point of of this was now, but yeah, this is all I want to say.
I think everybody here would agree. Nobody would here, I don't think, would be believing in bypassing. But please carry on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I think also though it's worth appreciating that sometimes, so your friend in particular, that experience that she had, you know, that the fact that you know what happened to her would suggest to me that she's been able to talk about it a little bit. She's told you about that, so you know that her father raped her. You know, a lot of people would have blocked that out of their awareness and not even remember that happening anymore. They would just be responding to the fear that it would bring up, right? So she's already advanced in that sense to the point where she recognizes what creates this situation for her.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, for sure, it was blocked out for 35 years. She didn't have any kind of memory before the 10th age, before she was 10 years old. And after 35, somehow in a therapy session, or I don't know how exactly, it had a shift. The memory had a shift and it opened up, and then she collapsed for years.
Yep. Yeah, so working through that would be a primary thing up to a certain point. You wouldn't even bother with looking at the self until a lot of that stuff was released for her. Yeah. So, but yeah, you're right. I mean, I see people all the time that have been in therapy for most of their life, and they haven't got anywhere. They're just because they're just talking about it. They're not actually getting into the experience of what needs to happen to shift it. So to get rid of the self, there needs to be a certain, how can I put it, a certain stability of self first in order to get rid of it. You know, if there's a shaky
foundation.
Yes. Yeah, it just that needs to be established before we can knock it over, so to speak. Yeah.
Yes, maybe that's why some people have this kind of very bad experience with non-dualism and all these teachings.
Absolutely,
And there is depersonalization and etc. And then somehow they are building up a YouTube channel around this, that all this is bullshit, all this is very dangerous, and all that is taught by Ilona, Elena, Jim Newman, etc. This is kind of just a mind fuck, and be careful with this. These people are a sect, etc. So there is this message out there, and you are right that maybe those people who were facing this and get traumatized by non-dualism and somehow mixed up the death of the self or the ego with the death of the body or the character. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm just guessing here. So yes, it's very important to have a healthy relationship with with the self before before I don't know the right words for this, but it's a very interesting topic, this whole realizing this and trauma and how to deal with it, how it helps to deal with it, and where is it?
That's why I love Pernill's work on YouTube, which is how I found Vince, is through Pernill. I don't know if you've seen her YouTube. Her channel is called The Awakening Curriculum. And so, yeah, it's not about a solution. It's not about just bypassing. Like, she talks about that. She talks about how, yes, you have to establish boundaries. Like this, like, yes, a boundary. Obviously that woman, you know, she had a traumatic experience and her boundary was clearly crossed. So it's not just like a quick Jim Newman type thing. It's like Pernill's stuff is like deep and there's layers, and it's beautiful, like the way that she explains it.
Yes, from this perspective, then the answer to Rami's question would be, from my side, that sometimes it's enough to see it, but if it's really, really deeply rooted and you carry it with yourself since decades, then it's absolutely not enough just to see it. Then that's a door opener, the first step, the start point. It can help a lot. But still, there is this kind of, how Ramis called it, energy, or I don't have a better word for it. So neuron combination, neuron ways in the brain, I don't know. And you have to spent time with that. And you have to ask yourself also, is it a problem? Is it good or is it bad if this stays forever? Because it also can be that in your story, maybe this stays forever. Maybe I will be always fighting at my first sexual when I'm at the first time with a woman. Maybe I will carry this my whole life. And is it a problem? Is it good? Is it bad? There is not a solution for everything, everywhere, every time, for everybody. And this, when you realize this, it's also it's a lot of weight coming up from the shoulder. A lot of contraction is going away.
I think it's a very tender thing, all this working through. One has to be very, very, very tender as one works through all the different layers. I just wanted to put tender in. The word tender just seems appropriate right now.
Yeah.
Could I say something about this? If that's okay?
Of course, don't ask permission, just jump in.
Okay, I'm just getting used to it because it kind of wraps everything in. I don't know where I am on the FETA thing. I've only just found this group and Pernill's, and I'm really relieved I have, because I feel that's going to help me a lot. But I've just been through a couple of months of torture. It felt like torture, and it does seem to happen in the winter. That I get that, but I came through. I've been around 7 years in non-duality, so I've been around the houses with the Muji and Lisa and all various teachers, and I ended up with the sort of Jim Newman, Tony Parsons for quite a few years, and something just really struck me with that, and I felt I had a really significant shift with it. I thought I was awake. I even did a couple of talks on There's No One Here, Nothing's Happening, which I really resonated with, and that was true. And but as I said last week, I felt it was just the beginning for me, and it's only now that the trauma because I've also suffered with abuse, and it's only now that there's enough space for that. This is the story. It seems like there's only now just enough space for that to come up, and I've had nowhere to explore that or know what's happening before. And in this last 2 months, you know, it became very clear that I needed guidance. I needed some group or something to be able to talk about that. And it seems I go through these dark times, and then like this last time, I had a memory of abuse that I'd actually forgotten. So it had obviously been stored there, but it wasn't a safe enough time in my life for it to come up. And it was after the darkness that then the memory came up, and that's what it was about, or that's how I'm seeing it. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to put down the sort of Tony Parsons and Jim Newman camp, because I found great value in that, but also it's been really difficult afterwards, because it was like going to the top and seeing over the mountain and then falling off the mountain with no safety net. That's how it felt here, and that's terrified me, you know, because there was no support structure. And it's kind of said, you know, once you've seen that, that's it. Everything else is a story, and it was so drummed into my mind. So there was a harshness for myself with that. And I like what Yvonne said, you know, I've had to learn compassion and tenderness, you know, for myself, for whatever it is here that needs that. And that's been hard, you know. But I kind of don't want to bring it back to a belief, but I kind of feel everything's perfect in the way that it happens. And I don't know if I'd have stayed in it, in non-duality, or continued on if I hadn't seen over the mountain, because I've got that to know, you know, like, you know, it was beautiful, you know, it was a honeymoon. It was, everything seemed to drop for a time, and I was free. I just didn't know what was happening then when the other shoe dropped, and you know, it's like, you know, it came back. So I completely get what Sebastian's saying, and seems to have a lot of compassion for that, which is beautiful, because I think that is needed in these really traumatic places.
I've got a story about that, you know, and the way I see it, that non-duality stuff catapults you straight into something that, well, you heard Jahida talking earlier about that distance thing, and we were talking about things that seem to be real are really only concepts, and so on. And it's like what we're talking about, if you use the Feta model, we're talking about, we're up at Feta 8, 7, 8, up there somewhere. And so what the non-duality people do is they catapult you straight into that level up there.
Yeah.
But that is bypassing all the shit that's below there that you need to go through really first to get up there. And
All
so
that lovely shit.
yeah.
We need all that lovely shit.
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of back to basics, been away, but having been where you've been, that does give you tools. That does give you a perspective on things that makes this other stuff a lot easier to work through. You know, we're not having to fight so hard to get through Feta 1 to realize that self is just a concept, because you can see that straight off. But there is still that other stuff that's buried there that needs to be exorcised first. Yeah.
I
So
think that's the problem. Sorry.
I was going to say, Sebastian, it was interesting. I asked you about yourself and you told me about other people, but I picked up as you were talking enough stuff about you to recognize that you were already in a pretty good place. Would that be accurate?
I don't know what you mean with good, but it
Yeah,
seems I am at a place. Yes.
stupid language, of course. Yeah. Yeah. So
It's
one
an
of the things that
interesting.
happened for me in my journey, you know, I was a seeker for years, and as part of that seeker, I got into psychodrama and encounter groups and was doing a lot of that stuff. So by the time I had a shift, I'd already worked through a lot of that stuff. It was already gone, so to speak. So consequently, there was no giant epiphany. There was an epiphany, but it wasn't you know, a huge one like a lot of people experience. So if people have gone through a lot of stuff and worked it out, it's a different experience when they go through the so-called gate than if they come raw to it, so to speak. Then they'll work through because it takes off the filters. It takes off all of the lid off the pressure, so to speak, and out will come a lot of stuff in a rush. So it can be traumatic for people. It can be really over the top for some people if they're confronted with all of that in one quick go, like a volcano erupting.
Problem is that there is no sangha or no possibility to talk to Jim, for example, on a daily basis. So it's not the problem what he's communicating. His perspective is only from the absolute. So he doesn't care about the story. He doesn't care about the relative stuff. It's okay. It's fine. It's his ways or Tony's way. The problem is that you can't talk to him. That he's a YouTube guy. He has maybe his sanghas and his satsangs and dharma speeches and etc. But you can't reach him. And there are, for example, in Hungary where I'm sitting, there are 2 or 3 women who are telling you the same. So they are fully realized or awakened, or I don't know how to call this. It doesn't matter. But you have the possibility to talk to them on a daily basis. They have messenger groups, any kind of problem on the way of integration, because as Anne told before, if the shift comes very early in an early stage of life or unprepared, or there are people who never ever read anything about this. I had a friend who ended up on the psychiatry. So he was heavily medicated for 3 or 4 months. He lost his mind because of this, and he had to rebuild his whole character structure for 4 months. That he was until he was able to work and live in these circumstances after the shift. So I'm very grateful that in this story here, it's a very step-by-step successive way of evolving, or I don't know, I mean changing. And if somebody is not so lucky like me, then it's very important for them to have a guide, have somebody to reach out to, just speak on the phone, or somebody who's tender with you, somebody who focuses on you, somebody who points out that come back to the body, come back to the moment, come back to the sensations, don't be lost in the thoughts, etc., etc., who helps you out. And these women here in Hungary, they help you. They have satsangs, they have retreats, they have phone numbers, they are live, real persons who you can talk to. And I think this is very, very, very important in this whole journey. Yes,
Yeah,
that's all.
good. Yeah. Thank you.
Just a funny story, Sebastian. I know this is not exactly what you were saying, but apparently Jim Newman's phone number is on his website. And a friend of mine rang him one day and he answered, and she was talking to him. And he was very nice. She can't remember what he said because she was so shocked that he answered the phone. So he pretty won't talk to you every single day about this stuff, but apparently he does answer the phone if you ring him up. So it was quite funny.
Oh, thanks for the info. I didn't knew that. It's somehow funny and also a bit heart-warming.
Yeah. Yeah, Tony Parsons gives his number out as well. I've rung him a couple of times, but the longest he has a conversation is normally about 3 minutes. So, yeah.
How have you been traveling, Don?
Yeah, I'm up and down, the usual story. Thanks for asking. I've traveled to Germany, one part of my travels. I'm here. Lisa Cairns has a retreat this week, so I'm here for that. And yeah, it's interesting enough. I wasn't sure what this, as usual, I wasn't sure whether to say much as part of the ongoing conversation. People were talking about intuition. Even Ramiz's question from ages ago. I have, yeah, you may remember, I have that question myself a lot of the time, because it often seems to me that I don't believe something in my thoughts, and yet I act as if it's true still. So I feel like it is, or my body tells me it is, or whatever way. Or intuition, that thing about intuition. And I don't know what the answer to that is. And Lisa was talking today about, she was saying something about seeking, the beginning of seeking, and she gave an example of a particular psychological starting point, I guess, because she'd heard people talking about it, about starting from a point of shame and not being valued as an individual and so on. I'm like, oh my God, it's like she was living in my house when I was being brought up. It was just so detailed, like just not having any, not being valued at all. I know it's kind of weird. I think it's weird in this way. I was just glad to hear her describing it, because kind of in this context of going towards there's nobody here, and yet and on the other hand, there's a feeling of, but I want there to be a me here to get. Even I sometimes worry about the thing of whether there's enough self here to get rid of the self, because there's just so little. Seems like, I don't know, sometimes to me, very little stability here sometimes. That it seems like I really, really wasn't wanted. You know, in some sense, the spontaneous being of whoever it was, whatever it was that was born, just wasn't wanted by my dad, and my mother didn't stop that from happening. So there's all the things she described about shame was just, oh my gosh, that's just my life. And so then I was hearing about the intuition thing and the trauma thing, and I was like, what about like, if I see through some of this sometimes at a thought level, but there's just so much intuition telling me to be afraid, to expect criticism, which I expect from all of you now, every one of you, I expect to be shamed right now, this moment. I'm incredibly self-conscious. If that's just loads of intuitive trauma shit here, and there's a little bit of me who sees through the self, a little maybe sometimes, you can call bullshit if you want, and then there's all this stuff here that I'm going, what do I do with this? It's just a lot of it. And maybe the me I'm looking at now is the me who doesn't like to feel like this all the time. I don't know. Anyway, that's how I'm traveling today, Vince.
No,
Thanks.
that was great. Yeah, thank you.
Can I ask
That's
you?
it.
Can I ask you? Can you feel compassion for your father and your mother?
Yeah, I'm not too bad that way. I mean, a little. I mean, I don't feel, yeah, I kind of don't have any anger or resentment. I feel, yeah, I do. A little. To the extent that I can feel compassion for anyone, including me. Yeah,
No,
I'm
but
not too bad.
It's just when you were talking about your father not wanting you and your mother carrying on and having you, I think that's what you.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
I mean,
I don't have much
like
direct.
intensity. There's a lot of intensity in just those few words, you know.
Yeah. It's funny, I feel like I don't know if I can say 100%, but mostly given up on anger and resentment, and I've forgiven them and all the rest. And yet the stuff mostly, I won't say 100%, but there's there's a lot of intensity still in my own system, like my interaction with my parents when they died in the last year or two, but like was fairly cheerful and positive and like okay in the last few years. Like as people when they were still here, it was okay interaction, but there, you know, the aspects of them in my system, particularly my dad's voice, I can feel the anger and the judgment in my own. So it's I'm doing it now, I suppose, but I can feel the energy of him. Like in particular, I think this is kind of funny. I'll quickly say, this wasn't exactly what you said, but one of the voices I hear, one of the voices I hear in my head sometimes says something like, if I glimpse something a little bit one day, it kind of almost goes, that's the truth, that's fine, that's who you are, that's the truth, it seems perfectly fine. Who cares? You'll just do what you're fucking told. You just believe these thoughts, that's what you'll do. And I don't care what the truth is, I don't know who care, I don't care who or what you are, that's fine. You just believe your thoughts for the rest of your life because that's what you'll fucking do. And that's my dad's, it's almost like I am not allowed not to believe my thoughts. There's a really strong belief that I cannot stop believing my thoughts. And it feels like my dad's anger in that. And even if I've forgiven him in real life, I'm still have this in, I was going to say stuck with it. I feel like a victim of, I feel like I should be able to drop that. I haven't dropped that yet. I still feel that sometimes, that those beliefs are still.
You can't consciously drop it, can you? I mean, one has to kind of really get deep down and feel the pain of, feel your pain. And that's awful. I was going to say, I believe, but it can be healed. I know it can be healed.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what went out to you when you said that about your father and your mother? Because I thought, oh.
And I feel really ridiculously dramatic saying it. I feel like I couldn't have that. I have a regular middle-class childhood. I shouldn't be complaining. You know, I feel really ridiculous saying it. And yet, on the other hand, when I say it out loud, I go, that's totally fucking true. That's what my childhood was like.
It's sad. It's sadness. It's sad. And I feel that sadness in you. And when I hear you talk, I hear it. I don't know what, my heart comes out to you.
Thank you. I feel that. Thank you. And I'm trying to figure out, I know figure out sounds like the wrong phrase. I'm trying to figure out how to feel this, you know, for such a long time, how to feel it. How bad do I have to feel for how long? I mean, I'm trying to get into the sensations recently. I'm just shaking with, the amount of, I mean, I didn't know sensations could feel this terrible for so long, but I'm just sitting with it for hours and hours and hours every day going, let's feel terrible for as long as possible. Maybe that'll be what it takes.
But you need, I feel you need to soften towards yourself somehow.
Yeah, maybe.
Need to, there's a need to open and soften towards yourself. Can someone help me here, please?
So Don, I'm interested. How are you feeling about what Yvonne is feeling?
I'm feeling what you say. I'm really super grateful, Yvonne, for what you're saying. It's really kind and nice. I just about feel it. It's really hard for me to feel. I actually don't even feel compassion for other people anymore these days, but I almost never felt it for myself. And it's very hard for me to feel compassion for myself. I just feel tiny little glimmers of it every now and then. But but I do feel it just a little, as much as I can. I feel what you're saying to me, Yvonne. But even at the same time, when you're saying, I've forgotten what the words were now. My reaction would be, I don't know how to do that.
I don't think you don't have to know how to do it.
And here I am feeling guilty. You're going for heart surgery in the next 10 minutes, and I'm here complaining about some nonsense.
But in the next 10 minutes, it might be next year. I just want, I just think, I just want to heal you.
Thank you. Yeah, you're very kind. I
No,
suppose
it's not. It's not kindness. It's just I just feel it. I wouldn't call it anything other than I'm just a feeling towards you, and I just there's a need for some softening. Even your voice is harder. Just everything needs to be softened. And can anybody help me here? Because I'm not quite sure of the steps that you can take.
Hey, Dom, I feel you. I feel you.
Yeah.
Definitely. I've heard you a lot. I've seen you. We've been on talks together. I
know.
always resonate with what you say and those dark places that you go to. I do. I feel you. And from what I'm learning about myself, if this resonates with you in any way, when you've had a lot of trauma and you've lived in your head for so long through escaping into the thoughts, into the mind, to touch down into body sensations and have that courage to touch them for a second, just to let a bit of light in, it's, to me anyway, it seemed almost impossible, you know. But that's what I'm learning. I'm trying to learn to do is just, I know that's where it's at. That's where the gold is. And as it's been said, the tenderness and the gentleness. I don't hear any harshness in you. I always think you sound really soft, gentle, but I can hear, like me, that there's something harsh that can come in on myself a lot more than it does with others, really. It can just come in there and like a destroyer, you know. So yeah, I just wanted to say hi because I've heard you a lot and probably heard me, and it's nice to see you. Really nice.
Thank you. Nice to see you. Thanks.
Yeah, I
do feel like I need to. Who was saying who was going to talk? Sorry, Vince.
I picked up, Don, when you were talking, you said something that I thought was a bit interesting and worth reflecting back to you, was that you said you expected everybody here to be critical of you or something along those lines. Yet I know that you're not going to get any criticism from anybody here. So that was a contradiction that was inbuilt. You know, I imagine that even when you said it, if you thought about it, you would recognize that no, you weren't going to. That wasn't true. You weren't going to get criticised by anybody here. I feel I just want to fucking come and hug you. You know, I just. Everybody here is just so open-hearted, and you know, and I suddenly realised, you being the way you are, you get this. This is a brilliant way for you to get love from everybody. You do. Everybody really loves you. You're a fucking nice guy, and everybody loves you. And so, don't change. Keep being the way you are because it's really good.
Yeah, thanks, Vince. You're very kind. I appreciate it. That's where I was just to go back to Ramez's question. Sorry, I'll just to back to Ramez's question about beliefs. Right, I know that that's true. What you just said now, Vince, and you're all nice people, and you know, possibly like me. I don't know. It's just I can sort of believe that at that level, and that feeling level, intuition level. I just expect all of humanity. I just feel like all of humanity detests me on a daily basis, moment to moment, and I just feel I can feel that coming through the screen at me from everybody, while at the same time my thoughts go, "Oh, these are nice people. They're all fine." It's just weird how that happened. They're both happening at the same time. And so if I say I believe you, Vince, that you all like me, what does that mean if I feel the opposite of it at the same time? If in some weird, scary way. It's weird. Ugh. Yeah.
You want to say something?
Can I say something? I just hear a lot, and what was helpful for me with that
voice that says, I can't do this, or it's not possible, or it's too much. What helped me a lot was when I got down to a lot of that stuff, I realized they weren't coming from me, you know? So you're identifying so strongly with them as you. And a lot of it's just stuff that was fed into you by your environment.
Yeah.
So you're fighting, it's almost like you're fighting something in yourself that's not even you. It's not you. So you try to, I know the trauma work's really good and the identification of the trauma is really good, but sometimes there can be over identification with these thoughts and feelings. And they're not, and and the ones that there's some specific ones you can, if you start to look at them, you can really start to say, well, that's not even me. I mean, there's still thoughts that are going to come up that are just like, this is definitely coming from me. But a lot of it, I mean, it sounds more like the way you describe your dad. It sounds more like it's your dad talking in a way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. No, some
And
of
so
that
just
stuff.
realize, wait a minute, that's not me. And if your dad's alive, I don't know if he's alive, but they're just kind of like ghosts that
Yeah.
attach to you in a sense. I mean, that's a way of describing it. It's your parents or your teachers or whoever put this stuff in your head at a young age. You took it on as you, and it's not.
Some of what I think of the effort or the struggle I put in, this could be wrong as well, but some of the time I think the reason I put a lot of effort in is to try and see that stuff before I react like that or behave like that or believe that stuff it just feels like there's so much of it that I will just live out of that story and react out of those beliefs all day unless I struggle constantly to see them before I react from them. Because they feel
I
so.
think it's okay to react from them. It's okay to react. That's not the problem. Do you see what I'm saying? I think so many people are told that, well, once you find out there is no self, you're just going to feel really happy. And that's not the case, because your body's and the functioning mechanism of the human body is still running on a program, So yeah, it does seem like I've been doing this forever, but eventually it does start to release. It does, especially if you can get to the point where some of the stuff that you think is yours, you can kind of see, wait a minute, this wasn't me, this not me. It's that identifying. This is me. These thoughts that come up are mine. These feelings that come up are mine. This is all mine, and I have to do something about it. And it's like, it's helpful to just kind of go, wait a minute. A lot of these beliefs and these feelings aren't even mine. They were put there. It's kind of what they call toxic shame. We get this guilt and shame from our environment and take it on. And as children, we take it on as being us. Because we're so dependent on our parents, we just assume, well, that means that's me as well. So you give yourself a break in that way by saying, well, wait, these aren't even mine. And it doesn't necessarily change the pattern that's coming up, but if you can kind of look at it in another sense, it's not, you're identifying so strongly with it.
Yeah,
and part
from
of that, yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
I was gonna say, from the work that I've been doing with Pernilla, and the fetters, which I'm sure, I guess you guys talk about it sometimes on this call, sometimes not, but the fetters meaning like the layers of identity. So the first fetter would be, there's a me here. I'm identifying with the me, those thoughts. And the second fetter would be these emotions that I identify with. So I was able to see through the first fetter, and yet still, I was able to see through the first fetter, and yet still, I was able to see through the first fetter, and yet still, I was able to see through the first fetter, and yet still, I was able to see through the first fetter, and yet still, I was able to see through the first fetter, and yet still, I was able to see through the first fetter, and yet still, I was able to see through the first fetter, and yet still, I was able to see through the first fetter, and yet still, I was able to see through the first fetter, and yet still, I was able to see through the first fetter, and yet still, I was able to see through the first fetter, and yet still, I was able to see through the first fetter, and yet still, I was able to see through the first fetter, and yet still, I was able to see through the first fetter, and yet still, I was able to see through the first fetter, and yet still, I was able to see through the first fetter, and yet still, I was able to see through the first fetter there are things that happen that where I see that I'm in resistance to something, or yes, like you said, Don, the same thing where I'm feeling this shame, right? So for example, today it happened where last night, actually, my husband, I went to go move a box and he's like, what is that on there? And there was like ink on it. And I was like, oh, I don't know. And I was like, it's something, there must have been something in the box. And I moved the box, and then he said, like, there's ink all over that. Now it's all over the floor. You're going to get it on the thing, right? And so even though I know that that's, you know, I know that there's no me here, something in the body said, I feel shame. Something in the body it's not a thought, it's something that happens here that feels like this. I'm such a bad girl, right? Like, and it happens so fast that I don't even notice that something in the body is saying, I'm a bad girl. And I automatically go to, well, I didn't know that was in there. And, you know, I'm like defending myself, right? I'm defending myself. I'm bypassing the little girl that needs to be something said to her. Like I say to my daughter, sweetie, it's okay. It's not your fault. You didn't mean to do that, right? I'm bypassing feeling that, oh, there's the little girl. It's like I said at the beginning of the call. Oh, it's the feeling of shame. Like, oh, I feel like I did something wrong. And it's automatically explaining to him why I didn't mean to, or I didn't see that in there, or there's no ink on the floor here. I didn't do it. You know, there's an automatic, right? So, and the way I work with it with Pernille, on the calls with her is like, there's such a quick thing that happens, whether it's explaining to my husband why it's not my fault, or saying in my head, well, there's no me here to blame. There's no person here to shame, or there's no one here to feel shame. That is also bypassing. And that's not to say that I need to stay in the feeling and stay with it and stay with it and stay with it. It's just to notice it. Oh, what's that? Okay, got it. Yep, I feel it. And like, it's been the hardest thing for me to like stay with it, not dwell on it, but just to catch it. Exactly. Cause I feel like I almost need to like tape my mouth shut and like shut up, because I just automatically want to defend myself. I automatically want to just say, you know, and just stick up for myself, you know. And it's like it happened yesterday when it was having, I was like, shut up, Jahida, shut up. And I was like, and it just like had to come out. Like I had to bypass it. I could not just stay with the little girl and say to her, whoa, there you are. Hi. It's okay, honey. I'm right here. It's okay. Like, it's fine. I'm here. And then, so, and it's weird because it is in layers, because when I first saw it through the self, I would feel that feeling like, oh, what? Because Todd would ask me, well, what is it that you're assuming to be yourself? And I'm like, oh, it's right here. Every time it's here. It's that feeling. It's that gripping. That's me. And then I would feel it and it would go. And then the next time it happened, so it's kind of like, it's harder for me to do it at this level with the emotions, because it's like, it is bypassing to say, well, there's no one here to feel the shame, because I just don't want to feel it, really.
Okay, so that's really good. I want to jump in here. Dawn, I want to ask you the question. So when did you see what Jahida was doing there? She was saying to her little girl, it's okay, honey. It's okay. You didn't mean to do it, right? Now, I'm wondering whether you have ever even noticed that little boy who is being constantly criticized by your father. Have you ever noticed him? Have you ever gone to him and said, it's okay, little Donnie. It's all right.
Yeah.
You're okay. Have you ever even contacted that little boy?
I have a story about that. You might also say this is bullshit. I've been trying to do this kind of stuff for fucking decades. I would say, I am that little boy, Vince. There is no adult Don over here. I'm only about 10 years of age, or 4. And the only time, and only the very odd time when I get some space I was talking to Luciana on Thursday, and you know, I talked to Alan a few times, and sometimes I feel like there's whatever presence here, right? And I go, oh, now I could do that. Now I could be here for whoever little Dawn, the rest of me who was here all the time, and I could spend time and hear or feel whatever the rest of me. Genuinely, it might sound like bullshit to everyone here. I feel like I'm just a child who pretends to do an adult person's job, and I have never been able to grow up all my life. So I've never been able to do child work because I'm not an adult. There you go.
I don't think that's the
Yeah,
thing.
what we're talking about is something slightly different to that. Yes, we're talking about the adult Don
Yeah.
talking to the child Donnie, the adult.
Yeah.
So yes, when you're just saying, you know, you feel like you're the child now, there's still no adult there to tell you that it's okay. Right. So you need to be the parent to young Donnie for a moment.
I need to figure out. I'm almost figure out. I use the phrase "figure out," don't I? But it doesn't feel. I feel like I'm bullshitting if I say I can do that. I don't know. Maybe every actual parent feels that they're bullshitting when they start to be a parent. I don't know. But I'm not one. But I feel like I'm pretending to myself if I say that I can do that. That I just can't feel like. I don't know. It's weird. I don't want to go on about it forever. I did 4 years of internal family systems with 2 different therapists, and they all came to the same conclusion: not enough access to self-energy, self with a capital S. It was like my inner child parts wouldn't trust me to help them because there was other inner child parts also trying to help them all the time, even with the therapist's help for 4 years. And it's weird. So anyway, I'm not saying it can't be done. It's been harder for me to do that than I hoped, basically.
And
Don,
I don't know
let me
if it
ask
needs to
him
even
something. Let
go
me
ahead.
ask him something here. Don, I'm struck by listening to your conversation, and about every other word is I feel. And then you say, you make a statement like the whole world hates you, which you know is clearly not true, but you feel it's right. I want to ask you, why do you allow a sensation in your body to prove the truth or falsity of any concept?
Nah. I would say that if you were to ask me if something was true or false, I would think about it and I would tell you the answer that way. But then I could go off and act completely the opposite way for the rest of the week because I feel that it's true.
So what is your answer?
What I would say is that it seems to me that I act according to how I feel. And so to say I don't believe that makes it true or whatever, it would just be half the answer. Until I stop feeling something is true, I won't behave as if it isn't. I'm not sure which way around I'm saying it. You know what I mean? Am I saying it backwards and forwards at the same time? I'm saying, like, I could look at something and go, I think that's true. I feel it's false. And I could answer whichever way, but I know I'm going to act according to how I feel most of the time.
What weight does the sensation have other than what another thought gives to it, is what I'm asking you, maybe a different way. Why do you give so much weight to a sensation? Why is that so important?
I think that if I'm not very conscious during the day, that my responses will be from the sensation. I'll act out of anxiety or act out of whatever, or at least I'll be driven to act. I try not to if I can, but the initial.
Are your sensations proving to be good evidence in terms of providing happiness and relief from suffering?
No. I know I don't fully act out of them. I just feel like constantly my first reaction is always out of. So there's always an effort involved to not respond out of anxiety, for example, and find something cheerful or confident to say instead. And that's just constant struggle all day is that those feelings and whatever gut feelings are
But
there.
when you have a thought come up and you say that thought is true because I feel it's true, or you have a thought comes up and you say that thought is false because I feel it. Have you ever actually looked at the sensation itself and asked the question, why is that giving weight to something? What is that sensation evidence of, other than a sensation?
I'm not sure if I have. Yeah, I have to look and see if I do try and look at sensations more quite recently, and it's sometimes every now and then clear to me that they're just sensations, but not as clear as I'd like.
Yeah, so Paul, the same kind of thing with me. Are you saying that, like, I don't necessarily need to say to my little child, I don't need to talk to my little child and make up this story about what I need to do now to say it's okay. I don't even need to say this sensation is shame. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not talking about a little child. I'm not a therapist. I'm just asking a simple question. Why does a sensation in a body prove the truth or falsity of a concept? If he says the whole world hates me and he feels that is true, why is that feeling proof that the whole world actually hates him? You see?
Well,
It's
I
a
guess what
very
I'm saying is
simple
it doesn't
question.
matter if it's true or not. What matters is if I feel like it is every day of my life and I respond to the world like that. And so I kind of feel like I don't care if I can prove it's true or not. I just feel like it is all the time, and it pisses me off that that's how it feels to live in the world. That's kind of how I feel, I suppose. If I could prove it to be wrong and then I stopped feeling that way, then that's, I guess, what I feel I did when I was younger was
But you
I
say
tried to
if you
prove
could,
it wrong.
listen to what you said. You said if I could prove that it was wrong, that I felt it was wrong, you're going back again to saying you can't prove it's true because the feeling or sensation in the body is, you're relying on that as evidence. I'm trying to get at what is the glue between the truth or falsity of a concept and a sensation in a body? What's the glue that's binding those two?
I'm just saying it spontaneously that there may be no glue at all. I can just say a concept is either true or false because I can think it through, and my feelings may or may not be consistent with that.
Well, let's not.
And you don't seem to care whether I've proved something to be true or not in my thoughts.
Well, that's good that you say it like that when you think it through, because before you said that, all I heard was I feel. Now you're saying, well, I have to think it through, and then maybe the feeling has nothing to do with it. That's what I'm pointing at. Is what's the glue, whatever this glue is that's binding this sensation that is you're using as evidence of the truth or falsity of a concept. You got to, that's what you need to be looking at, and actually cut it would be a good idea.
Okay. I mean, maybe the word belief, not that I want to go on. I mean, sometimes the word belief, I feel if I say, okay, I'm using the phrase I feel again, am I? If I say I believe or don't believe something, it seems disingenuous if I go, well, I know this to be true theoretically, or I've thought it through and it seems very clear logically to me, and yet I behave as if the opposite is true all the time. It seems like bullshit for me to say that I believe it, because I feel the opposite and I behave as if the opposite is true. So then I don't want to just say I believe X, because I know that every day I believe the opposite. I behave as if it isn't true. And so the feelings don't prove that the concept is one way or the other. I'm just behaving as if it's the opposite or something. So yeah, I'm not saying I've proved the concept by feeling a different way. I'm just saying I'm behaving as if I believe the concept, even if I know it's not true. Does that make sense? I'm not sure if I'm
getting in here. I've heard you say in the past, Don, I've heard you say it's, and I think we're not talking about anything that's actually relevant to you here, because what I've heard you say in the past is that you are compelled to obey, and that's your relationship to those feelings. You just have to do what they say, It's not a matter of whether you believe it or not. You are compelled. Somehow there's a compulsion.
It's a little bit like that. I mean, it's not that I totally follow, but it's just, there's such a lot of, you know, like anxiety or shame or whatever the thing is. There's a whole lot of stuff there. And I'm just battling with that stuff all day, with people, with work, with everything. I'm going, oh, what the fuck? I'm just trying to get through the day. I'm so confused by the amount of that's there. I don't even know what I believe half the time. I'm just trying to get through the day without saying something dumb, which obviously I'm not achieving now. So, you know, so yeah, it's something like, I don't know. I don't know if that's, I don't know, Paul, you know, I'm not, maybe I'm totally missing what you're trying to, I feel like, I know you heard me say this before a few weeks ago, right? I felt like in my early 20s, I just thought things through and I didn't even know what my feelings were. And then I was convinced that if I just had a view or I realized it was different, I could change my opinion, then that was the way that was what I believed, and that's how I was going to live my life. And then after a while, I was like, oh no, I feel differently, and my behavior is going off completely differently from what I think is my opinion. So what use are my opinions if my behavior is going in a different direction? I need to, I don't know. I mean, does that, yeah.
Yeah, I get it. Well, I get that I don't get it, but I get it. Yeah.
Do you think,
I mean,
could you not do something very simple, like just stop believing your thoughts?
Oh.
Well, it had so one of the problems that, as I've known Don over a period of time, is that he believes that he's got to be the only way that he can get anywhere is by controlling it. And he believes that, and he can't not try to control it. So he's got no control over his control. Is that right, Don? Is that accurate?
It feels like, it is a bit like that. It feels, I know, and you're not the only one who advises me that, Vince, so I should take it seriously at some point. But it sort of feels like that the amount of negative trip that's going on over here is just ridiculous. And it's, I don't know, I don't have trust in the universe. I believe that this negative trip will just go on until my death, until I fix it, or unless I turn it around, unless I steer it in a different direction. And it'll just persuade me and distract me and whatever, unless I constantly trying to come back to the present moment and notice all the time. That's all I can, for now. I can't just trust and go, I'm just going to relax. I'll be in the present. It'll be lovely. It isn't fucking lovely in the present over here at all. I don't know. Do you know? I don't know. Does that make sense? What am I supposed to do? I don't know. What do I do with, I don't know.
Yeah. You're a hopeless case. You're going to be like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Don't say that.
No, but I mean, oh, geez. No, but what do you,
Well, you know, Don, if you were to write a book about all of the things you've tried to fix this, it would be a pretty thick book, wouldn't it?
Yeah, pretty long book, yeah.
Yeah. And none of it's worked. So
pretty well.
Yeah.
Recognizing I wasn't my thoughts and emotions was good one time, but that was a spontaneous thing that happened to me. So that's why I'm interested in this. But
could you see what you just said? Sorry? About your thoughts?
I said recognizing that I wasn't my thoughts and emotions worked, but that was something that happened spontaneously, and it's kind of undone itself since then. It's a long time ago. So that's why I'm interested in doing this. That's the only thing that ever made any sense to me, that actually made me okay. That's a long time ago, and I have been trying to get back to that understanding, or whatever that is.
How long did that last for, Don?
3 months.
Okay, so that was pretty significant. Yeah. Trying to get back to it, that's pretty fruitless. You know, that's
I know, but well, yeah. But yeah.
But it was a taste that was pretty nice, eh?
Yeah.
Good taste, yeah. Good taste.
Yeah.
Can I just ask a question?
Yep.
You said at the very beginning that you nowadays feel compassion towards others more and more, but not towards yourself. What is the experience feeling compassion towards others? What is the sensation? What does it feel like to feel compassion towards others?
Oh, I can barely even feel it now. I guess I don't want, if I see somebody in particular, I suppose, see somebody, sometimes I guess I see somebody doing what I do, like beating themselves up unnecessarily or something like that. Somebody who's very self-critical, I go, no, don't do that. You don't need to do that. That's terrible. And I want them to stop because I can feel sad that they're doing something unnecessary to make themselves unhappy.
Ah, that little, a little doorway there.
Hmm. Yeah.
And what is the difference between others, where you feel this kind of compassion and love, and that you want something good for the other person, and what is the difference between those guys and yourself? What is the missing link that you can feel this kind of tenderness, this kind of warmth towards others, but you are continuously beating yourself up, you are hurting yourself? I mean, you are just, my impression was that you were bullying yourself this whole time. I'm saying bullshit, I'm this, I'm that. There were at least 5 sentences, which sentences somebody would tell me in the face, I would, yeah, I would stand up and leave that person, or or react in maybe even a harsher way. So what is the difference? Where is the missing link? Why can't you feel this kind of why do you need, why do you need this?
From the first, I mean, the first 2 or 3 words of that sentence, when you started asking me what the difference is, my first reaction was because I don't deserve it. I don't deserve to have compassion like other people do. I don't know why. I mean, I don't know why that's true. Paul will probably ask me why I believe that's true, and I don't know yet. But that's my first reaction.
You don't
Somebody
deserve-
told you that. Somebody told you that. You heard it somewhere in the grapevine at one point. That's,
Probably.
you know, and you took it on. You're taking it on. That's how the mechanics work with our body minds.
Don,
You're just saying.
Yeah.
Don, this matter of compassion, are you feeling it now?
Yeah, I have to stretch to feel it. I'll just find somebody to feel it for. Yeah.
Find someone that you can feel compassion for.
See if I can remember someone from today's meeting, say. Or can I? Yeah, okay, go on. Yeah, I can try.
You've got the feeling compassion?
A little. I'm really struggling, to be honest, right now. It's hard. Yeah.
Can you describe what you're thinking about that takes you to that feeling?
There was just some people today at our meeting who struggling with stuff, I guess similar stuff to me, with shame and fear and stuff that you wouldn't know that they had any of when they, you know, meet them normally.
Yeah. Can you think of one of those instances?
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us about it?
Let me see. Yeah, I guess there was a guy who was just that he felt depressed an awful lot of the time, and he didn't tell anybody, and this kind of thing, and he'd never know that sort of thing. And I was like, gosh, you know, that's not a great way to live your life. I'm sorry to hear that, you know. Yeah.
Is the feeling of compassion there right now when you think of that?
Yeah.
Right. Just stay with that.
Mm.
Can you just feel the compassion without the story necessarily? If the compassion goes, bring in the story again, but just feel that compassion.
Mm.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, just kind of feeling of, I guess, sadness. I feel like tears in my eyes a little bit, and I guess there's a softness to it. I just want the person not to have to feel that way. It feels unnecessary. I want to be able to take away that unnecessary suffering. Some way, yeah.
So just staying with that. How does it feel to just let that sit with you?
It's hard to stay with it.
Bring back the story. Bring back the story then. Often we're trying to get rid of the stories, but bring back the story so you feel the compassion.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Right. So just stay with that. Just stay with that. Now, are you thinking about Don at all? About you?
Not so much, no.
No. So you don't have to even think about you to have compassion. Right now, you are that compassion. So whether it's about anybody else or about Don, don't worry about that. Just feel the compassion. That's all. Because the truth is, Don cannot be compassionate, but all that we can do is open our heart to compassion.
Okay.
And there it is, right there. So if the compassion goes, think of a story that invokes it again, and then just sit with it.
Okay.
That sounds like
So-
homework. That sounds like homework.
Hard work, yeah. Homework, yeah.
Something for you to do several times a day.
So Don, you've often asked the question, what do I do? And Vince has just explained something to do.
I know, and so are you? I think Vince was kind of half joking there. Was he just saying like, Don wants a whole bunch of shit to do all the time. Here's another thing for him to do.
No.
Is that what you?
No. He's not joking. He's not joking. He's deadly serious. Vince can be serious, you know.
Really? Okay.
Can I just say, Don, I think what's just been said really, really important, because just as I said, something I've been learning is when I'm in those places that you're talking about, which seem like hell, it's like I've had my skin taken off, or I'm having my skin ripped off. It's just unbearable. It's squirmy. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to face it. I don't want to feel it. It's harsh. It's so contracted, you know. And I was laid on my bed one day and I just felt the softness of my cushion on my foot. And somehow it just took me to that softness. And it stayed with me ever since, you know, and it's just finding that soft place in me that has been locked for so long because it feels so vulnerable. I can't open it up. I can't open up that place. It's too dangerous. And that compassion, you know, for yourself, for myself, that I so desperately needed. No one else could give it me. no matter how much they did, I had to do it myself. And you know, just to find things that take you to that place, like Alan was telling you, you know, carry around a little soft toy, you know, something that reminds you, oh yeah, I need to go to that soft place now. You know, I need to find that soft place in me. That's my way in. Just a little crack of light, even if it's only a tiny bit, when I'm being beaten, when something's literally killing me, you know, just to find that tiny crack of softness. And then it can open up and open up. And it's taking me practice. It is taking me. It's hard work, you know. And then I'll fail. And then I'll beat myself up for failing. It's so painful. It's so incredibly painful to live in that place that you're talking about. But for me, if it helps, it's just, you know, stroking a soft cushion, you know, having something in my pocket that reminds me there's love, there's tenderness, there's love. I do deserve that. I am that. And it does, it can be very hard work when you're in those tight places a lot.
So, Don, I was being serious about homework, and I say, do what Alan showed you to get that feeling of compassion, and sink into it. So, you know, it might not be very stable in the beginning, but keep doing it. Bring the story until you get the feeling. When you get the feeling, dispense with the story, and just really appreciate that feeling, where it is, what it feels like. Sink into it, and keep doing that until we make it really solid, until you can just think about it and go straight there, right? And this is not where it ends. This is that little crack in the doorway that Anne was talking about. This is the way into that heart space that young Donnie needs to experience and will experience. But it's a start, and it's a great way in for you, to do it. So yeah, treat it as work, if you like. It doesn't matter. Just do it. You know, do it 5 times today, and 4 times tomorrow, and maybe only 3 times a day after, or as much as is necessary for you to become really familiar with what that feeling of compassion feels like, so that the moment you think about it, it becomes there instantly there.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Okay. Well, we've just hit 2.5 hours, so unless somebody's got something, I'm going to wind up.
You know, I'm just feeling deeply into this sense of compassion, and there's so much around us that I mean, the pain and the suffering is just incredible, and it's just a reminder for me as I listen to you, Don, describing someone else's pain. As we see those visuals and hear the stories of this pain, it just allows that doorway, that crack of light that you were talking about, Anne, to open up wider and wider in everyone's heart here, and just to feel that compassion. And this is how compassion is brought to the world, heart by heart. It's a beautiful thing. So I just want to thank everyone this morning for what has happened. There's something in my heart that is welling up of absolute joy and compassion as I'm sitting here. Oh,
Beautiful.
thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful.
And just to let you know, Don, every time I speak, you know, and probably after this meeting, something's saying to me, shut the fuck up. What do you know? Who are you to speak out? These people don't even know you. You're stupid, you know, and worse and worse. And that goes on. And it did last week, you know. But just that crack helps me. But it's okay. It's okay. It's just okay.
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. I love you, Don.
Mhm.